This is Taimur. His startup generated $750,000 in revenue in less than a year after they did one strategic change.
The thing that changed outside of just the market was the fact that
He invited us to his office in London to show us exactly how they did it and how they selected the right niche for their finance platform product. But that was after the company almost died. From that near-death experience, the company bounced to generate over $1 million in revenue in 15 months. This is the compounded story of Causal.
Hey Taimur, thanks for having me. What have you? Where are we right now?
So we are at Causal HQ in Old Street in London, and we have this nice view that we're very, very fortunate to have, and so it's a good place to work.
So tell me about your business, Causal. What are you guys building?
Causal is a modern financial planning and reporting tool for startups. It's a bit like a cross between a spreadsheet and a BI tool. You can kind of think of it as something like that.
Who was your first customer and how did you find that person?
Yeah, so our first customer at Causal was actually a marketing agency here in London called Ladder.io. They actually came in inbound. I think one of their founders had heard about the product and really liked it. And so they were using Causal to build some dashboards to show their clients, what the return on their ad spend would be. They were paying us something like $50 a month. We've got one marketing agency on board. Let's go talk to all of the marketing agencies in London.
That first version of Causal for marketing agencies ended up not clicking. Why is that?
Yeah, the big issue that we found after probably 3 or 4 months of talking to basically every marketing agency in London was that the problem that Causal was solving was just not a very frequent problem for them.
That led you to December 2020, where you had some sort of existential crisis.
In the first year or so of working on Causal, we hadn't made that much progress. And the thing that we'd always tell ourselves is, it's early days. We've been working on this for less than a year or just over a year. But in December 2022, I think that was the 18-month mark for us. And when we thought about, wow, we've been working on this for 18 months and we don't really have much revenue. We don't really have any real customers. That was a bit of a turning point where we were like, something is obviously not working. We need to figure out how we're going to break through. We had a hypothesis that, okay, these marketing agencies aren't using it very frequently. Smaller companies aren't using Causal very frequently. So let's find the company size at which finance becomes a big enough problem that people will be using something like Causal every day or a few times a week. If a company is about 100 people, they'll have 1 or 2 full-time finance people. At that point, Causal would be a tool that they'd be using frequently enough where they might be willing to pay, a few $100s a month for it. We actually went to the Dominican Republic for a month with some friends. We had a big house there. We were heads down. There were a couple of big product things that we needed to build. And our goal was basically, look, we're going to build these product things. Then we're going to have 40 conversations with people in this target market. Depending on what they say, we'll decide whether we're going to carry on with the business or not.
From the near startup desk experience, you folks bounced to $750K in ARR. How did it happen?
The turning point for us was when we tried to actually be a bit more scientific or a bit more methodical about how we were going to approach going to market. One of the kind of most common pieces of feedback that we were getting was that people just didn't feel like the product was serious enough. They felt like, oh, this looks kind of cool, it looks a bit simple, I can't imagine my financial model fitting in here. This looks like maybe for smaller companies, but this is too simple for us. And our main takeaway from that was basically look, people need a interface that they're familiar with before they're going to be able to take this product seriously. And so we concluded, okay, we need to build something like a spreadsheet interface for Causal before finance people are going to take this product seriously. And then we presented this new version of Causal with the spreadsheet interface. I think we followed a pretty tight process for how we wanted to convert these people. The process was basically demo, and then we offer the pilot project, and then we build out a bunch of stuff, and then we kind of check in with them, we show them how it works. And at that point, they can decide, okay, do I want to start paying some money for this or am I not interested? And then the actual motion had also changed where we weren't just expecting people to sign up and just figure things out. We were on the phone with them. We were hand-holding them as they were using the product. We had a Slack channel set up. We were doing a bunch of calls with them. So it was very typical sort of high-touch sales and high-touch customer success. And I think that was also a real turning point for us because I think in that process of doing sales calls, you get so much real-time feedback on the call. You can see exactly what's resonating with them. You can see what points they're not interested in. You just get maybe 100 times more feedback in a sales-led motion than we were getting when we were purely self-serve, purely product-led. We agreed with them beforehand, hey, these are the success criteria. If Causal can do X, Y, and Z, then we will buy the product at a certain price point. And so we got our first few customers, maybe the first 3 or 4 customers, by doing this pilot project kind of process. And that worked very well. And we had a very standardized sort of pitch and standardized process that we pushed people down. So we had this very specific ICP, which was finance people at sort of mid-market companies, so companies 100, 200, 300 people in size. So it was a very narrow focus on that. Once we had the first few customers, I think we had a little bit of social proof. And so getting the next set of customers is a lot easier and you don't have to kind of prove as much upfront.
Like you told me that every sales calls were asking for something more. What happened? How did it click in your opinion?
It probably took us about $1 million ARR before we actually felt like we get on a sales call, Causal will be able to tick all the boxes that people care about. I think before that point, almost every sales call, there was something that they needed that we couldn't quite do. There was some extra feature that we needed, and we'd basically promised to build them this feature to get them over the line. In that journey from like 0 to 750 or like 0 to $1 million, it still felt like every deal that we won, we kind of got a bit lucky and we kind of just like convinced these people that we'll just do whatever it takes to make them happy. And so once we had about 30 customers, pretty much anything that they would throw at us on the sales calls, we'd already built this thing. So it was nice to sort of reach that point where I felt like, okay, we can pretty confidently get on a call. We know all the 10 or 15 things that they might ask us, and we know that the product can do these things.
Hey, real quick, that product you're building, let me show you can 10x the number of people using it. Imagine you can figure out who stays in your product or not, and why, and use that information to improve. In June.so, we have dozens of ready-made analyses to understand why your customers stick around, like what are the features they use or not. All of that out of the box with one line of code. For instance, specify a design API product that helps collect and distribute design tokens. Use June to increase by 20% the amount of signup that stick around after 2 weeks in the product. It is simple. They added June, figure out what milestones their most successful users were doing, and then promoted that pattern to others within the product. If you're serious about building a product that people love, then check out June.so. I'm leaving a link in the description. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Take care.
This new market dynamic changed a lot of things, obviously, for you guys. What did you change?
The main thing that we found in the new market was that bigger companies were a lot more reluctant to buy software, but it seemed like smaller companies actually cared a lot more about what we were selling compared to, say, in 2021. So we were finding it hard to sell into the mid-market, but at the same time, we had a lot of organic growth, organic demand on our self-serve plan. And so we decided to focus on what was working. And so we decided to double down on PLG. When we started going to market in 2021, we tried selling to these smaller companies and we tried having this PLG motion, and it didn't really work. The thing that changed outside of just the market was the fact that the product had actually come quite a long way. So that process of selling into bigger companies, that process of sales-led growth, it let the product get to a point of maturity, I think, where then if a smaller company just came across it, they would be much happier to buy this product self-serve because they know that, hey, this I can grow with this product over the next few years. It's not just something I'm going to use for the next 6 or 12 months and then have to upgrade to some bigger solution.
Throughout that new strategy, you guys tried a lot of go-to-market initiatives.
Actually, yeah, we've tried a ton of stuff, put out sort of blog posts and things like this. But I think the thing that we found that seems to be resonating the most with people is actually video content. And so from the very early days, we had a lot of Loom videos that I recorded for like tutorials and things like this. And we always found that those really resonated with customers. And so we've doubled down a lot on video content. So we're doing a bunch of content on LinkedIn, just sort of short clips about our journey as a startup, about the things we've learned about finance from working with all of our customers. I think content is just very hard because I think every company is putting out blog posts, every company is doing SEO, but I think highly produced video content is not something that most companies are doing yet. So we're doing a lot of that at the moment, and that seems to be driving a lot of engagement. We ran this experiment. We had like a part-time marketing person, he was actually a friend of ours. He had this idea of like, hey, maybe we should try and get GPT to create some pages which might rank on Google for SEO. We were focused on doing sales and building the product, and we were like, yeah, this sounds kind of interesting. Let's launch a bunch of these pages and see what happens. We kind of did that through this marketing person, and we just kind of forgot about it. But then I think 6 to 12 months down the line, our traffic really started to skyrocket through these AI generated pages to the point where we're actually getting about 1 million visitors a month. I think November last year, there was this kind of viral Twitter thread that someone did, basically kind of looking at our traffic and sort of explaining how, we used AI to generate these pages and get all of this traffic. And I think basically from that, someone at Google sort of manually flagged this content, and almost overnight, we lost all of this sort of AI generated traffic. It wasn't kind of a major source of customers or leads for us. It was just kind of this experiment that happened to, get a little bit out of hand. And so now we're focused on sort of human written, high quality content, real experts and real stuff we've learned along the way. That stuff, that sort of authentic, real content is what actually resonates with people.
I have a challenge for you.
All right.
I would love you to help me convince an engineer to join a seed stage startup instead of working at Google or a big tech co.
Okay.
I know you're into financial models. Can you build that model for us?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I guess for engineers joining companies, if you have an offer from Google, have this almost like guaranteed path to like very high salary, good stock options and things like this. And the point of joining a startup is to almost have this lottery ticket where your salary is probably going to be a bit lower, but if this company succeeds, if it sells for $1 billion or maybe more than that, then you might get a much bigger payout than you would at Google.
I wanted to ask you about the viral TikTok you guys had.
In the Dominican Republic, just working remotely with a bunch of friends, it was like 5 of us in this house together. At the time, there were a lot of these TikToks going around of these content houses where there's like a bunch of people in LA, a bunch of like influencers, and they were like creating their content and like showcasing it on TikTok. So we thought, okay, let's kind of do a parody of that where we're like a bunch of tech guys in this house. It kind of went viral on tech Twitter for a few days. I think firstly that led to a lot of signups for Causal. I think a lot of people saw that, went on my profile, saw Causal and signed up for the product. And then actually we got a couple of our very early employees through that. So our first engineer saw that video on Twitter. Presumably he thought, okay, these guys seem like an interesting bunch. Like, maybe I should, try and work at this company. And then he reached out and yeah, we ended up hiring him as our first engineer. And actually we had a couple of other hires even after that who initially saw the TikTok and they were kind of sold on, working with us, I suppose, from seeing this TikTok. So yeah, there were a lot of kind of positive effects just from this random thing.
Can you show me the model?
Yeah, so here's the model that we've built. So we have a bunch of different assumptions in this model around the valuation of the startup, how many shares you'd be getting, the strike price, and so on. And obviously the same for the Google offer. In this chart, we can kind of see what the compensation would be in both those two different cases over time. And you can kind of see that, you would be making more at Google for the first few years. That's where staying at the startup would actually get you a lot more money than staying at Google.
What valuation, what exit price did you put in the model?
In here, you'd be joining the company probably around Series A, so at a valuation of around $20 million. And then the exit multiple would be somewhere between 4 and 10 times that. So, I guess between like 100 million and $1 billion. And then you would be getting 700,000 options out of the 10 million total. So I guess like 0.07%.
Taimur, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man. This was fun.
It was great fun. If you're looking for a financial planning solution, then check out Causal.app, great product. And if you're looking for a model to convince an engineer to join you instead of Google, then check out the model that Taimur created in the description or the thread or whatever is below that. Until next time, thanks for watching. See ya.
Thanks a lot.